Hello everyone and welcome to Quality Old Games. Today we are making another tier list, this time from Egypt's unit roster in original Rome Total War. And of course it most likely applies to a larger extent to Rome Remastered as well. And the tier list is based on campaign setting, so in addition to the unit's fighting capabilities, also the requirements and costs are taken into consideration. Furthermore, if kind of a better unit can be gotten from lower tier unit building than a higher tier unit, then that higher tier unit practically becomes obsolete. But without further ado, let's begin with Cavalry. First we have Nubian Cavalry here. And, well, practically they are suffering from the fact that, in my opinion, Desert Cavalry is actually the best cavalry in excluding chariots in the Egyptian roster. So, yeah, basically perhaps we should put Desert Cavalry first. And in my opinion they are actually S tier unit. And the reason, or Spartan tier unit, and the reasoning is that you get access to them early, so basically tier 2 settlement, tier 1 stables, that's really nice. In battle, testing battle, they beat practically almost every other light cavalry units. They have armor piercing attacks and thus they can work rather well also in the late game when you are facing more heavily armored opponents. And for example against engaged cataphracts, a flanking or rear charge with these guys can actually do something. So that's the reasoning behind Spartan tier. Easy access and they kind of retain their value, which is rather great throughout the whole campaign. So then we have this Nubian Cavalry. Basically it's one tier higher than Desert Cavalry, and in my opinion it's not actually as good as Desert Cavalry. So yeah, perhaps there might be some uses for them, but I think they are either obsolete or bad. I think I will put them into lower end of bad category at least for now, because well, it's only one tier higher. And, well, they get a decent charge bonus, but still, I mean, rather bad cavalry unit, in my opinion. Especially considering it's tier 3 in terms of city tiers. Then we have Nile Cavalry, which actually is tier 4 cavalry. And it doesn't even have shield. So, yeah. Practically just ignore. I mean, perhaps you shouldn't even build tier 2 or tier 3 stables. So I think Desert Cavalry is good enough cavalry from that building chain. So you don't practically need these. You should use your money elsewhere. Then we have early bodyguard. And actually this is one of the few, if not the only, bodyguard that actually have long-range missiles. So Eastern generals have javelins, but these guys are archers, and that's really impressive. What makes it even more impressive is that as cavalry is counter to missile units, these guys with chariots are kind of a counter to cavalry. So it's really hard to take these guys down if they are controlled properly. And because of that, I think they deserve a place in Spartan tier and in the highest end of Spartan tier, because, well, they are available from the beginning of the campaign. And, well, they are useful to the end of the campaign. Then we have Egyptian chariots. Not quite as good as Scythed chariots. Of course they cannot run amok, or these cannot run amok. I mean, they can do rather okay against cavalry, but otherwise, well, not that good in my opinion. So I'm kind of wondering between wannabe Spartan or okay. Let's put them to wannabe Spartan for now. Mainly because Egypt has rather nice archer units or bowman units, and those must be protected from cavalry, and these guys are fit for that job. So I think that deserve or earns them the place in wannabe Spartan tier. And of course, it's a rather easy unit to get. You only need blacksmith, so yeah, that's really nice. So further support for wannabe Spartan tier. Then we have late bodyguard. Usually I would put all bodyguard units in wannabe Spartan tier, but of course the early bodyguard makes an exception, and I think this late bodyguard makes an exception as well, because if at all possible, you should try to prevent the Romans to get Imperial Palace, so you can kind of prevent Marian reforms, and you don't need to get this rather bad late bodyguard unit compared to the early one. So just avoid. Try to avoid at all costs. Because, well, the unit even doesn't have shield, so its fighting capabilities are rather questionable. Of course, well, heavy cavalry is always heavy cavalry, but against late game units without shields, I think it's rather risky to use this in battle, especially compared to this one. I mean, missile unit is always missile unit, and missile cavalry especially is missile cavalry, so this is a huge downgrade in the bodyguard, in my opinion. So if you can avoid it, just avoid it, but unfortunately, that's quite often not possible to do. Then we have infantry units. First we have Desert Axemen. I mean, the unit is nice enough, in my opinion. However, the requirements are rather high. So basically, one needs to have tier 3 settlement. So basically, these are equivalent to principes that Romans have. And I would take principes any day of the week over these ones. So yeah, Egyptian phalanxes might need some protection from the flanks, or for their flanks. So for that, I guess these guys are rather okay. They are relatively cheap, so that's nice. But they are not really that good, in my opinion. So that's only okay tier for me. Then we have Nile Spearmen. I think this unit is actually the backbone of Egyptian infantry. You can get it from tier 2 settlements, from tier 2 barracks. It's not that expensive, and it can hold the line rather well. So, and of course, what's important, it has shield. So it doesn't get taken down too fast by enemy archers. And I think because of it's kind of the workhorse of Egyptian infantry, it deserves a place in wannabe Spartan tier. Then we have Nubian Spearmen. They are kind of equivalent to Militia Hoplites. I once tested these two units against each other, and Militia Hoplites actually are better than these ones. I mean, tier 1 unit, you cannot expect too much of them, and of course when they can form phalanx, that's always nice. So, I mean, they can get things done, even though you should go for Nile Spearmen as soon as they are available, but I think the unit is okay enough in the early game so that you shouldn't avoid it. Then we have Peasants. Usually I put Peasants in the Spartan category or to the S tier because of their ability to boost cities' public order, and you can use them also to transfer population from one settlement to another one. However, Egypt does have really nice buildings. Temples can get to tier 5, there are those execution squares, even tier 5 market provides some public order bonus and so on and so forth. So Egypt doesn't need peasants that much, in my opinion. But still, of course, when the imperial campaign progresses, your provinces are more distant from the capital, you will have public order issues nonetheless. So I think peasants are still rather important. So wannabe Spartans, for mainly maintaining public order, you should keep them out of battle because, well, they are rather useless there. Of course, in city center they can achieve something because they cannot be broken there, but mostly for public order purposes. And yeah, that's the reason for the wannabe Spartan tier. Then we have Pharaoh's Guards, and I think this will be controversial, but I will give them only C tier. And the reasoning is, they should be an elite unit, but they don't have shield, so practically it means that if enemy has missile units, they will whittle down these guys in no time. If enemy has, say, tier 3 phalanx unit, armored hoplites, phalanx pikemen, they will melt Pharaoh's guards in their path. So, and this is actually tier 4 unit, so it trades down really badly. Furthermore, it takes 2 turns to train, whereas, for example, phalanx pikemen and armored hoplites take only 1 turn, and the upkeep is staggering 330 denarii per turn. So, yeah. In some cases, you need more punching power than Nile Spearmen can provide. And in those cases, if you can protect Pharaoh's guards, they can be, I guess, okay. But quite often, I think having Nile Spearmen, or perhaps even 2 units of Nile Spearmen for 1 Pharaoh's guards, will almost always be a better option. So, yeah, it's a bad unit in my books. Don't be offended if you are a fan of the unit, but yeah, I don't like it. The more I test it, the less I like it. Then we have missile units. First we have bowmen. Available from tier 3 archery building, so the city is tier 3, level 3 city. Bowmen archer units are quite okay, in my opinion. Of course, their value will decrease as the game progresses. For example, the Romans do get Archer Auxilia as tier 3 unit, so that is superior to this one. But still, early game, yeah, decent enough. I guess okay is okay for that unit. Then we have camel archers. And actually you recruit these from stables, and that's practically tier 4 stables or tier 4 settlement. And I don't practically like camels. Of course, camel archers, missile cavalry is always nice, and as you can at least outrun the infantry, that's nice, but you cannot outrun cavalry. And I doubt that the camel bonus is strong enough so that you can kind of deter the determined cavalry opponent that's trying to pursue you. So, yeah. And to make things worse is that requirement of tier 4 stables, or city tier 4 stables, as you can get chariot archers from city tier 3 blacksmith or armorer. So the unit is kind of obsolete. If you get a capturer settlement that has stables to produce this unit, by all means do make them. But you shouldn't, in my opinion, aim for these units. So basically, that first tier cavalry stables are enough, and you can get the other units from other building chains. So I think you should avoid this. But if you get them, I think they are in battle rather okay, but still the requirements are a bit too high. Then we have heavy onagers. I have said that often enough. I don't like heavy onagers. I don't like onagers either, but this is the only unit you get from the highest tier practice ranges. So that's almost 10,000 investment to make the building, and then you need to build these units as well. And they slow you down and so on and so forth. In my opinion, you should just avoid them. Use that 10,000 for some other units, for instance. Then we have skirmishers. In my opinion, they are suffering from the fact that you can get slingers from the same tier practice range or archery building as you get skirmishers. So, okay, the javelins do deal a bit more damage, but the range is smaller and or shorter, and the number of javelins is smaller as well, and there are no differences in costs and requirements. So, they are not useless, but I think you should get slingers instead. And getting slingers from the beginning of the game is rather nice. So I think this unit is rather okay. And let's put them actually above the bowmen, because that tier 3 archery building actually hurts the bowmen a bit here. So yeah, I think slingers are okay. And then we have Pharaoh's bowmen, tier 4 unit, one of the best archery units in the game. So it's clearly going to the upper tiers here. However, it takes 2 turns to train, and furthermore the upkeep is that rather high 330. So that's, in my opinion, that 2 turns and high upkeep are keeping it from Spartan tier, but I think it's rather strong wannabe Spartan, because late game armies, in my opinion, should rather be built around Pharaoh's bowmen, supported by some phalanxes, chariots, etc, etc. But yeah, I think they form the core of the late game Egyptian army. And you should aim for tier 4 archery building. They are a good unit. Then we have chariot archers, I mean missile cavalry, always goes to the highest tiers. And of course, as they are chariots, they also do rather well against cavalry. So basically, as cavalry is used to counter missile units, then these units once again kind of counter cavalry, and because of that I think they deserve a place in the upper most Spartan tier over there. And then last and, well, perhaps among the least, we have onagers. In my opinion, not quite as horrible as heavy onagers, because you get these guys from the same tier building as Pharaoh's guards, so you don't need to invest anything extra, and the difference in quality, in my opinion, between onagers and heavy onagers is not that big. So there are certain situations where onagers can be useful, and in my opinion you should aim for onagers in those cases, not to heavy onagers, because they can have some uses. Knocking down walls, towers, perhaps if the enemy is bringing concentrated phalanx units, then some flaming ammo can do rather nice damage there as well, but still, in my opinion, the downsides are that the unit slows down the army, it's not that accurate, and if the enemy kind of pushes into the battle, you get relatively few shots off before the unit kind of becomes obsolete, and then it's taking only a space in your army. So in my experience, if you compare onagers to, for example, Pharaoh's bowmen, I think I would at least take Pharaoh's bowmen always over the onagers, or perhaps not always, in most of the cases. But yeah, that's my view of Egyptian unit roster in Rome Total War in campaign setting. Do you agree or disagree? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching. If you like the content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, become a channel member. And very special thanks to existing channel members, your support is greatly treasured. Have a great rest of the day. Quality Old Games out.